Motocross is a test of will. To overcome the challenges placed in your path.
They've got about 5 mechanics working so hard right now. Jeremy's been standing there with his fingers crossed.
A test of desire. To believe in your team and your talent when the odds seem the longest.
Wait a minute, Dungey slowing down. Does he have a bike problem? Oh, Roxon's down. Roxon is kidding me.
This second moto.
And Roxon's down again.
No.
Is that
points leader is down.
Wow.
A test of courage.
Oh no! Huge crash.
That's
Huge
the section we talked about.
The test is about to begin. Lucas Oil Pro Motocross from Tennessee is live on MAV TV.
The venerable Muddy Creek Raceway in Blounteville, Tennessee welcomes you to round 4 of the Lucas Oil Pro Motocross Championship, sanctioned by AMA Pro Racing and the Red Bull Tennessee National. Hello everyone, Jason Wygant, joined by multi-time motocross and supercross champion Grant Langston. Georgia Lindsay will be on hand a little later, patrolling the pits. Let's give you the big picture storylines we're following here today live on MAV TV. Well, what a shakeup in the series. Eli Tomac undefeated so far in 2015, dominating again last week until this. A massive crash that not only cost him the race, but his season. He has to have shoulder surgery on both arms. He is out for the rest of the year. Taking advantage? Well, last year's title contenders, Ken Roczen on the left, Ryan Dungey in the middle, also Blake Baggett, a rookie in the class on the right. They're the top 3 in points. Dungey is now your series leader. This is the way he usually racks them up, by being consistent when others falter. And in the 250s, a dogfight between 2 riders, Jeremy Martin here and Marvin Muscan, have been swapping the red plate as points leaders and race wins so far this year. We'll see who comes out on top today in round 4 of that class. Now today we're going to start off with the 450 class first. You can see the point standings. Tomac is actually still close to Dungey in this series, but like we said, he is out. So really the battle is between Dungey, Baggett, Roczen, Barsha, and the rest. Ken Roczen started the year off with a disappointing 19th place finish at the opener. That was surprising. He's now found his form again. But that tough race from him at the beginning kind of set the scene. It has been a wild year so far, Grant.
It definitely has. We were talking about Eli Tomac's dominance. He is out. That has really shooken everything up. You got Dungey inherits a points lead, but I have to imagine Ken Roczen's got to be looking at this going, hang on a second, I'm getting better, I'm getting stronger, and I'm only 35 points out. If he starts racking off some wins, I expect Roczen to pick it up. His back's feeling better. He's coming back to form. You see the riders going out for the parade lap. But I truly believe that Ken Roczen has a legitimate shot at this title, and he's going to go for it. But let's not forget, we got other guys. We saw Baggett on the podium. We've seen Pike knocking on the door. Tickle was fast in time qualifying. So a lot could happen.
Absolutely. Hey, we've only completed 1/3 of the championship so far. So although Dungey has the lead, plenty of time for someone else to mount a challenge. We'll be racing when we return. Lucas Oil Pro Motocross about to get underway here from Tennessee at Muddy Creek. A strong rookie 450 Supercross season for Blake Baggett has set high expectations here at Motocross, but he's trying to take it easy.
I definitely turned quite a few heads in Supercross. Did a little better than the most expected me to. Coming into outdoors, definitely feel confident, but just going to try to keep it steady. You know, I think that people think I can win races, but I don't doubt that. I think that I can win races too. I just got to get everything figured out and be steady and work on top 5s first, and then go to top 3s, and then if there's opportunities, go for wins. But just going to try to make sure that I keep it steady and make the smartest judgment I can. Riding the 450 versus the 250 outdoors, definitely have to respect it. Sounds kind of funny to say you got to respect a motorcycle, but you can't just ride it wide open and hang off the back of it and just let it bounce all around, because if it gets too far out from underneath you, it's gone. So it's a lot heavier, a lot more mass and inertia just with the bigger engine going forward, so it takes more to stop it. Definitely have to be a little bit smarter, a little wiser, and try to save some energy on it.
Oh, look at Baggett. Speaking of momentum, it's his first year on a 450 outdoors, and he said he's just trying to learn.
What makes me better in motocross and supercross? I don't really know if there is a certain thing that makes me better. I think that I just had a little more success faster in the outdoors, and in the supercross I may have just not had the greatest year. So I think that it's riding a dirt bike, it's dirt, it's jumps, it's obstacles, but all in all I think that I have the same talent in both places. The hardest part about being a motocross rider is probably just the ups and the downs. It's like catching waves. So some weekends you're good, some weekends you're not so good, but the bottom line to it is you got to be your best each weekend, and some weekends just aren't yours. So there's always another weekend, just trying to stay healthy.
All right, the long game for Baggett. Let's get more on him. Let's introduce Georgia Lindsay to the show and the GoPro starting gate.
Yes, obviously, Blake Baggett there shows a lot of confidence, which he truly deserves. Now, he has jumped up onto the 450 class this year, previously on a 250, and for that reason, he's running a 450cc machine. It's a lot bigger, a lot more powerful. He's a small guy, and he doesn't weigh too much, and he's actually having to work with Ricky Johnson on trying to gain weight, but gaining it in the correct way. That means he's still got his muscle and everything else. So that's the main thing he's been working on, and 5th in qualifying, 3rd overall last weekend, getting his first podium, and like he said, better and better every weekend, so we definitely need to keep an eye out for the number 4 of Blake Baggett.
Here's a Kawasaki track map. Thank you, Georgia. Gaining weight. It's nice. Nice little luxury to have when your team says you got to put some weight on. All right, let's get riding here, Grant.
Yep, drop the gate, go up the hill, past the Fram Mechanics area. Hopefully you'll get that motorsport.com whole shot. Come down here. This turn, taking a few guys out in the power. Second turn, right over start. Couple rollers. Make this right-hander where we saw a last lap pass last year in the 250 class over the finish line jump. Then you make a left, go past basically where the pit area is, over the Red Bull jump. Then down here, this part of the track starts going back downhill, and then on the brakes to this off-camber, come back up, another off-camber. The section's slightly different to the arrow showing us. They turn over this mountain and a big jump. The Fly Racing Western Power Sports triple step up. Not only is it big, but you've got to get on the brakes really hard to try and get to the inside. Turn down the hill to this off camber, and then this section here, a lot of big jumps. So a couple of guys trying to figure out different rhythms for you, but you got to, top guys are doubling these 2 tabletops, which is huge. 450 riders can get over, 250 guys landing on top, barely making it. Then this part of the track, it's a little bit tighter. These a lot of like right, left jumps, back on the brakes. This Muddy Creek track is confined in actually a relatively small area. So as much as it's a good full-size track, a lot of twists and turns, off cambers, jumps, which means the ruts will get deep. Then over here, make a left, go past where the mechanics will actually be set up. They remove that tabletop. Turn right, back on the gas, up the hill, onto the start straight. That's a lap here at Muddy Creek.
You said on the gas. Ryan Dungey was on it in practice earlier today. He collects the Bud Light Fastest Qualifier Award. Ken Roxon was 0.07 of a second behind him, so that's how close those two are. Let's get on board here with the GoPro Hero 4 cam and show you what it's like to log some fast laps at Muddy Creek.
Well, this is Kenny Roxon on a fast one in qualifying, going past where basically all the trucks are set up. See the off camber here, see the track falls away, gets on the brakes, gets to the inside, kind of a roller mound there, and then hard on the throttle. You'll see here, just gets over the top of this, but right when he lands on the brakes, these guys are going to find it harder and harder to make that inside as those braking bumps get tougher. Then you drop off this off camber, and this is that section I was talking about. Step up, tabletop, scrub that, and watch, listen, hard on the gas. Big jump all the way over there. That is huge. Another tabletop at the end here, make a left, drop down, and as day goes off, I'm telling you, those ruts are just going to get deeper and deeper.
Hey, congrats out to Chad Reed, won the Deltran Battery Tender RC Hard Charger Award from last week. Was down in the first turn of our first 450 moto and managed to come back, score some points. So good job for him. We have the Fram Cam today. This is a live onboard with Phil Nicoletti. Rare that we get the live onboard camera. This is great. We'll have it on Alex Martin, by the way, in the second moto of the day, which is the first 250 moto. Here's the Fly Racing 30-second card. Now the KTM keys to the moto. What do you need to do here at Muddy Creek?
It's our first time back east, 3-hour time change. We're dealing with humidity, weather change. These guys have to adapt. Line selection. I said this track's going to get rutted and more rutted. And there's a dangling carrot in front of these guys. With Tomac out, who's going to capture that?
Live on board with Nicoletti, and I think he's going to lead everybody too, and he's got his teammate Barsha right there. So the JGR Yamaha boys are 1-2, Jason Anderson in third, But a great start for Nicoletti on the 46. Barsha to the lead and down! Well, these tracks are usually slick on the first lap, and it just cost him big time. He goes from first to worst, and now it's Nicoletti. Well, you show these guys talk about what clean air is like in motocross terms. This is it. No dirt being thrown on it.
Well, Barsha right there snatches that whole shot away. The two Yamaha guys getting that first turn. But like you said, Jason, these opening laps, they throw down a little bit of water just for some moisture. So it's tough. These guys are pushing it. The track's a little bit different since they were out there in practice. And that's what can happen to someone like Barsha. You go out, a little too much pressure on that front wheel on the lean angle. And when it's slick, he lost it. There's that big triple step that we're talking about. You see the guys land on the brakes.
How about Nicoletti, by the way, who had a huge crash that we got to watch live in practice. Nice bounce back here to lead on the Auto Trader Toyota Yamaha. Now here's what happened to Barsha. Grant?
Well, Barsha's on the gas. Watch, he'll come over this crest, and then he leans into this turn. Watch the front end, just lands in just a little bit of a slick spot, and the rest is history.
And here's how you take the lead in motocross. And this was close, almost got clipped by Barsha's bike.
Luckily, he wasn't quite following him. Barsha actually crashes towards the inside, so Nicoletti right there has to make a decision, left, right. Does a great job to avoid him, and, well, a fill-in guy who's now got a full-time ride with JGR is looking good. But look at this. Dungey, who was not in the top 6 or whatever on that out of the start, he has already made some passes and in third place and right there with the leaders.
Kind of an interesting story. Anderson of the 21, the Rockstar Energy Racing Husky, and the Red Bull KTM of Dungey. Off the track, they are training partners. They ride motos together all the time. But in practice this morning, they were all over each other, much like what we just saw right there. Anderson slowing down, Dungey almost running into him. But this is a battle for true track position right now. This is not practice.
Well, Moto 1, this is where the points get paid. This is where the money gets paid. So for Ryan Dungey, he's got a small lead in the points, but for him, the good thing is his closest competitor is Eli Tomac, who is out for the rest of the season. So Dungey's got to be looking at things like making sure you're ahead of potential threats like Roczen, Blake Baggett, who's also not that far out in points.
Yep. How about Filthy Phil Nicoletti? Got his first ever career podium in a Moto 2 weeks ago at Glen Helen when he finished third. And you mentioned that this guy was a part-time rider. The Joe Gibbs Racing team would send him to a couple of races a year guaranteed. And if the other riders on the team were injured, then he would fill in for them. But this summer, they said you get all 12 rounds. And how about it? He's stepped up his game, and he continues to lead here at Muddy Creek.
Yeah, great season so far from Nicoletti, and it's always nice when you see a guy get a golden opportunity. See Nicoletti not quite able to get all the way over that tabletop. I'm curious if the guys behind him are, because that'll be a pretty good time saver downside in that jump to carry far more momentum. But Phil Nicoletti taking full advantage of having a great motorcycle team behind him, and he's showing why he deserved this ride as he continues to lead. And Dungey's putting the pressure still on Jason Anderson, but still a few bike lengths behind our leader, so he may not know what's going on behind him, but he probably will know pretty soon.
Dungey trying to get Anderson here. The white bike and the orange bike are battling for second and third. Ken Roczen, I believe, is making moves behind them. He was sixth, but trying to rip positions away from Weston Pike and Justin Brayton to get into fourth, but they're pretty far ways back. Anderson's trying to get Nicoletti. Dungey's trying to get Anderson. They're side by side. Let's see if Dungey has him covered on the outside, and he does.
Great move there. I think Anderson was looking at trying a different line, going to the outside, thought maybe give him a slingshot up the hill for Nicoletti, but that actually opened the door for Dungey. He went from the inside and then crossed the lines, go up the start straight to put himself back on the inside for the left-hander. And unfortunately for Anderson, there was nothing he could do. Once a guy's got his bike on the inside, he kind of controls that line.
Well, that's that classic situation. Was Anderson kind of stuck trying to take the lead, but also had a rider behind him? As we watch on board here with Nicoletti, who's in the lead with the Fran Cam, that's a tough situation if he's stuck between two riders.
Yeah, definitely is, because you're playing defense and offense at the same time. So, we often joke about being the meat and the sandwich, but there really is some truth there. It's tough because you go to the outside and try and make a pass. One little bobble, all of a sudden, you lose a position. So it can be a little frustrating at times. But look at Dungey mixing up the lines. They squared that up, trying to stay out of some of these lines. Comes down the hill on the outside, gives them a better arc in that corner. Let's see if these guys get all the way over this next jump. Dungey goes for it. Is he going to make the pass? He's
Down
got
the
drive.
inside, but this entrance into this left-hander on the inside is very rough. Dungey hits some bumps. Let's see if Nicoletti can get him back.
No, Dungey seals the deal. We just talked about how crucial it is to carry that drive. Basically, Nicoletti kind of overjumped that first tabletop, so he wasn't able to run down the backside of it and get that few extra mile an hour that you need, because these 450s are stretching it out to get all over that.
Well, that's the technical side of it. I'm going to throw in that Nicoletti crashed huge over that jump about 2 hours ago in practice, so I wonder mentally if that's not affecting him as well.
It's probably not his favorite jump on the track.
But good job still by the man they call Filthy Phil in second. He's never won one of these motos, so to just run up front like this has got to make him pretty happy. And you see the yellow fenders of Ken Roczen. He has now cleared Pike to get into fourth.
He's creeping in. If you look at the lap times, last lap, Brian Dungey, fastest man on track at a 1:56. Roczen was slightly slower than that, but a lot of times that's due to just having traffic. I want to see how quickly can Roczen get around these two guys, and will he have the pace? And is he physically healthy enough then to try and mount an attack of Dungey? Because Dungey's not running away. He's stretching it out. He's got the speed at the moment. But when they cross the line there, last lap around, look at that. Ken Roczen shaved off just a minute amount of time on Dungey. But more importantly, he was a couple seconds quicker than these two guys on camera. So Roczen picking it up right now.
About 5 seconds is the distance between Dungey in the lead, Roczen in fourth. Behind him is Pike fifth, Steely and Noren on the Hondas, 6th, 7th. Brayton back to 8th. Ryan Sykes, good to see him back in action this year. He is 9th in his first race of the season. Brock Tickle is 10th, Blake Baggett 11th. We watch Roczen now on the Soaring Eagle. Jimmy John Suzuki. I guess you can't use the word desperate when you're only into the 4th race of the season, but can't let Dungey get out front of him like this. He's got to make up points consistently, and he's stacked the deck a little bit against himself with this start.
He has, but at the same time, he's not that far back. So if you've got the pace, he can come through and still win this race without a problem. Phil on board with him. See, he's got some clear track as Dungey starts to slowly stretch it out. But we're only, a few minutes into this race, so we got 22 and a half minutes. Plus, after that, they throw out the 2-lap card. There's a lot of racing to go on. But Roczen has to pick up the pace just a little bit more if he wants to make a dent. And like you're saying, Jason, at this point of the season, it's not desperate time, but you've got to start beating Dungey. Look at that.
I'll talk about desperate. You see how hard Anderson was going around the outside, you like to say, to make that pass on Nicoletti. I mean, he almost threw it away 2 or 3 times, but he knew he had the opening. He had to give it everything he had to get in front of it. So now Anderson to second. We got the Fram Cam on board with your 3rd place rider, Nicoletti. Watch out for Ken Roczen, who's in 4th. Out here, there are actions and reactions, risks and rewards, and 30 minutes takes a lifetime. Out here, anything can happen. It's Lucas Oil Pro Motocross Round 5 next weekend right here live on MAV TV starting at 1 o'clock Eastern. And as always, we'll have 2 straight hours of coverage. So tune us in from High Point, just outside of Pittsburgh. One of the longest running events in this championship. And kind of similar, actually, in the feel to this one. It's got the ruts, got the off-camber turns, the technical stuff. You're watching Ken Roczen, the yellow machine. He is 3rd, trying to catch Jason Anderson. He's already gotten 3rd place away from Phil Nicoletti. Take us through it.
Yeah, basically Ken just leaves his braking late, puts his bike in there, basically forces Nicoletti to go to the outer rut on the inside. Kenny just gets a great drive out of the corner. Watch, you'll see Roczen's fend up the inside, and he gets a great drive. That was actually a relatively easy pass. I don't know if Phil actually even expected him to run it up the inside. I think he thought he had that inside line covered, but Roczen had other ideas.
What's surprising to me about watching that pass there, several feet before Roczen even gets in the camera range, he had already pretty much made the pass to peripheral vision. It shows these guys, you really kind of feel the guy back there long before you really see him.
Yeah, you can hear it, you can feel it. These guys are very aware of their surroundings. And sometimes if someone's catching them, they don't always necessarily know, but usually the mechanic tells them very quickly, so-and-so is coming, pick it up.
Hey, there wasn't much time to know that Roczen was coming. It took about a lap and a half for him to make up 3 seconds or so. As this battle for second rages on, let's send it back to Georgia. How's the track holding up?
Oh my goodness, it is looking beautiful out there. I spoke to a lot of the guys after practice and qualifying this morning, and they all said great things about the track. That they said conditions are great. It's going to get rutty like any dirt bike track, but the first three have been incredibly rough. This one they seem to think is a little bit smoother. It's got some fun jumps with the huge quad and obviously that big bomber jump that's that step up on the other side of the track.
Yeah, just like last week at Lakewood, there's a lot of rain in the days leading up to this event, and sometimes that means that they don't dig it up as deep. So yeah, it doesn't look as deep and rutted and nasty as it has been in previous years, at least earlier in the day.
Yeah, we are on the first moto, but it definitely is not what we've seen, especially even from last year. Not as moist, not as ripped as deep, but it creates a different sort of choppiness. You know, the track will get more choppy, but you'll have less of the real deep stuff.
Anderson just getting over that big jump there. That's new this year. They've been able to put those two tabletops together. Just a really steep takeoff now that allows them to get over it. Anderson and Roxon get along pretty well off the track. Roxon at one point did train with Alden Baker, who's working with Anderson, and they spent a lot of the off-season riding together. And I gotta say, the way Roxon was catching Nicoletti and Anderson, you would think he might be able to make short work of the 21 like he did Phil, but not happening here. Anderson holding his own.
Well, I think Anderson's running a really good pace. I mean, Roxon hasn't even got to a point where he's putting him under big pressure. He's just getting to that rear wheel, but he's got to get around him quickly if he wants any hope of going after Dungey. And, you know, said it and I'll say it again. Roxon's got to start beating Dungey, and the best way for him and his confidence is to come from behind, like in a moto like this. Come through past Dungey, because that's going to really weigh on his mind. You start getting into that mental battle.
Right now, Dungey's out front by a pretty big gap of nearly 10 seconds over this fight for second. Nicoletti back there in fourth. Roxon now getting close enough, trying some different lines, and Anderson sees that literally by looking over to his right over that jump.
Well, Anderson obviously just wanting to know who is coming up and putting on the pressure. Probably was no surprise to take a look over his shoulder and see the #1 plate of our defending series champion, Ken Roxon, who's just chipping away, getting better each week. Like you said, it was a remarkable turnaround. He could barely even ride at the opening round. And then then a couple weeks later, we're in Colorado, round 3, and he was very close to taking the overall. He said he had a flat tire going down, a slow front puncture, which explains the crashes. But, you know, take that out of it, he probably would have won the overall. So Roxon definitely, like I said, I'm really curious, you know, with backs just being the way they are. One day they can feel good, the next day they're killing you. And Roxon's figured out how to make it work for now.
Yeah, he has said, though, it could flare up again at any time, the back problems. We are about halfway through this moto. He's got to get on the gas. Anderson slipping back away. We're in a lap traffic. Dungey's got a solid lead. 15 minutes before we say 2 laps to go. And right now, I will remind you that in 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more on your insurance with Geico. Get on the phone, but keep the volume up because we'll have some great info for you as well as we come down to this lap traffic now. Let's see what kind of impact that has on this battle.
They did the nice gentleman thing, get out of the way. They see a battle going on with these guys that are getting lapped at this point, not even in the points, not even close to the points. So do the nice, polite gentleman thing, let these guys go and slug it out. But Roxon got to the fender of Anderson about pretty much 2 laps ago, and it just seems to stay the same way. It's just kind of stayed stagnant like that. In fact, Roxon hasn't even had a look yet. So either he's taking a quick breather, or Anderson's just knowing that he's there, is picking it up and trying to hold on.
Here's your Motorsport whole shot replay. It's all about those Joe Gibbs Yamahas in this one.
Yeah, with the onboard, we thought Nicoletti may have it. Barsha sneaks it just around the outside, gets the whole shot. But unfortunately for Barsha, he led this race for about 100 yards and went down the opening lap. So he's got a lot of traffic to come through. Yeah, no question there. Quite clearly ahead.
Barsha clocked in 12th place right now. That's a pretty impressive comeback from 40th as we watch Dungey continuing to pull away. Trauma-free is the Dunge early here at Muddy Creek. Got a spoiler in the midst here with Jason Anderson here on this Rockstar Energy Racing Husqvarna in second, the number 21. The story coming into this race with Eli Tomac, who did lead the series early, now out with injury. Everyone thought it was going to be the Ryan Dungey, Ken Roczen show, but Anderson has fended off pressure from Roczen. Dungey's out front and gone, but Anderson, he's pulled away from Roczen.
Well, we saw Roczen seems to have made a few mistakes, I think, in some areas. And I don't know if it's got anything to do with his back. You know, when you have an injury, you don't want to hammer sitting down all the roughest parts of the track. So he's been experimenting with lines, but a couple of sections he's actually lost ground to Anderson ahead of him. And right now, as you can tell, Anderson's pulled out a gap. I mean, it's basically 3 seconds as we speak. So Kenny had a look behind him after he made a mistake coming out one of his corners, and I'm wondering if maybe he's getting a little arm pump or riding a little tight. There's Nicoletti, solid 4th place. Doesn't have probably in a comfortable spot because no one really in front of him. Well, I mean, there's lappers, but you know, position-wise, no one that close behind him. But sometimes it's tough when you're riding by yourself in this position because you get lost in la la land. And sometimes you just don't focus on hammering good lap times and being consistent. But behind him, as we stroll back, look at this.
Cole Seeley coming through next.
Honda rider,
Seeley on the right. And following him through is Baggett on that yellow Yoshimura Suzuki with a lap rider in between them. So Seeley doing some good here the last couple of weeks. Started the year off on the ground at Hangtown and did not compete in the motos after an early crash. But last week, battled for a top 5 in the second moto. That's his career best at a 450. Hard landing, though, on that triple. And then you notice these riders, they make a big mistake. And they immediately look back to see what kind of damage it did to the gap they had. And now Baggett's a lot closer.
Well, that's also a really good spot to have a look because you basically have the sharp 180. So when you tilt your head to the left, you can see the guys coming up the hill and over the jump. So it's, you know, for riders just to keep a little bit of tabs on who's where and what's going on.
Behind Baggett, you saw Weston Pike. This is Brock Tickle coming through. And then it's Freddie Noren, who once again has a look with factory Honda HRC, riding for the injured Trey Kennard.
And look, he's 10th now.
Barsha, wow, the 84. That rider is not on the lead lap. That's Jesse Wentland, rider out of Minnesota. Must have went down early. Running a good pace, actually, but not in the points positions right now. So we go back to Seeley, Baggett. These are the two riders exiting this corner here. Baggett trying to just mow him down late in the race. Real contrast to styles when you get Baggett and Seeley. Seeley, much more successful so far in Supercross in his career. Baggett has had more success here in Motocross.
Well, also, if you look at their body structure, I mean, Baggett's a pretty compact sized guy. Cole Seeley, not, you know, extremely buff or anything in that aspect, but a very tall guy. So he uses his legs and his body very well. In other words, he's adapted to his height and what works for him.
And they're about to have a showdown here. This is for 5th and 6th, with Nicoletti 4th, Roczen 3rd, Anderson 2nd, and Dungey 15 seconds out front. See the countdown clock, top of the screen. 7.5 minutes before we take the 2 laps to go sign out. And Baggett looks like he wants to do some battle now with Seeley.
Yeah, Baggett looks like he's got just a little bit more pace at the moment over Cole Seeley. But some of these sections just pretty much have to follow the line. And that roost hurts when those guys, when those 450s grab a handful of throttle, man, that roost will just, I mean, it hits you in places where you're not really protected, whether it's the tip of your nose, your neck, your clavicle, your sternum, just areas around the chest protector. And some of these guys don't even wear a chest protector or roost guard.
Wow, that's just painful thinking about it, getting pelted. And Baggett is right in that roost zone now as we continue to watch the battle 5th and 6th. And don't count out Weston Pike. They're getting around Keely Rusk here, putting him a lap down. But Pike, some of the longer sections, you'll see him back there. There he is on the blue Auto Trader Toyota Joe Gibbs Yamaha. He's in this. If either of these guys slow down or take each other down, Pike can make up some positions. And as much as we talked about Dungey and Tomac and Roczen and whatnot this year, the battle behind them this year has been really close, just like this. These 3 riders are watching now. Barsha's been in that fight. Nicoletti's been in that fight. Pretty deep.
Well, you just mentioned a bunch of riders that I have either been on the podium or I expect them to be on the podium throughout the summer.
Right.
You know, you talked about it. Tomac was dominant. He's out. So theoretically, on paper, your two main guys left is Roczen and Dungey. But this gaggle of riders, they're, let's say, the best of the rest. They're not quite, in my opinion, have the raw speed to go in and round the outside.
There you go.
That's how you get it done, Weege.
Yeah.
Just go round the outside. Take the smoother line and carry more momentum.
Baggett, familiar with that turn. He was in the 250s a year ago. We saw one of the best battles ever, coming right down to the line in the final lap between he and Cooper Webb. He used that outside line.
And he stole it.
Yes.
I mean, that was highway robbery right there. And you could just tell Cooper Webb, I mean, he was gutted. He was, can't use the language on TV how he felt, but he was ticked off knowing how close he was. But I think that also motivated him in that second moto.
And yeah, Webb did come back, get revenge, and win the second moto with the 250 class. 250s this year will be coming up at the top of the hour, their first moto, as we watch Pike in 7th. Now he wants to go after Seeley the same way Baggett did.
As they air it out of that big jump. See, most of these guys getting over. I was kind of surprised that Nicoletti wasn't able to do it. And like we talked about, he had a big crash over that jump in practice. We had the onboard, saw him land hard, just literally go flying. So maybe it's in his head a little bit. That's tough as a racer when you've got something that's like a mental block. And I think that's hurting him a little bit today. His pace has been pretty good everywhere. He's losing time. Look at this.
Brock Tickle.
Tickle now in the mix. So Brock Tickle, he was fast in time qualifying earlier. In fact, the fastest in first time qualifying. So that
Said it to Georgia a little more on the number 20. Georgia?
Yes, right before the race, I was sitting down having a word with Brock Tickle, and he said once he jumped onto this 450 outdoor bike, he just felt completely comfortable. He said it was like going back to his 2012 days, and that the bike just worked so great for him. He said, I've been changing up my training. I've been doing stuff when I've been wanting to do it, keeping happy, not doing training I had to do, but that I wanted to do, and that he feels like throughout the season, he's only going to progress. So I think, you know, last week, that 5th place was great for him.
We have heard this time and time again. The guys back it down actually a little bit with their training during the week, have fun, and the results actually get better. Boy, did we just see Barsha come
he
through?
is on a mission.
Wow. So he's around the 39 of Norin, so that, I believe, puts Barsha now well inside the top 10, and he was down on the first lap after leading it, and last. And on a day where we're seeing Anderson able to hold Roczen at bay, you have to wonder, would Barsha also have been able to step up that challenge and be fighting for the podium?
Well, I was watching the lap times the last few laps as we watched Justin Barsha climbing through the order. Even with some traffic and having to make passes, his lap times have been really good. Maybe a little bit off Dungey, but he's basically matching Anderson Roczen, our second, third place rider. So like you said, with the whole shot, I would not be surprised without that crash. He would probably be sitting pretty close to Dungey right now, roughly in about second spot.
Yeah,
based on his speed.
Good battle to see. So now Barsha putting it back together after it fell apart with that early crash. He is 9th, Tickle 8th, Pike 7th, Seeley 6th, Baggett 5th, Nicoletti, Roczen, Anderson, Dungey. That's your lead group. And remember, the 250s are coming up, and they're wheeling Marvin Musquin's bike out of the Red Bull KTM truck. It's time for those riders to get ready. MAV TV presents the Dave Despain Show, where you can get an in-depth look at racing legends and heroes. The Dave Despain Show, presented by Carlisle Tools, Sunday at 11 Eastern and Pacific, only right here on MAV TV, the Motorsports Network. Marvin Musquin has won half of the motos of the 250 class so far this year, but a rough one last time out in Colorado. Wants to bounce back today, maybe try to reclaim that points lead. You'll see the 250 class at the top of the hour, so just stay with us. Pretty high standards set in that Red Bull KTM team. Musquin's looking at his training partner and teammate Ryan Dungey absolutely rolling away here in the 450 class.
As we look at the lap times, Dungey's last lap at 156, fastest at a 153. So track's deteriorating a little bit. Lap times are going to slow down. But at the same time, Ryan just looks like he's taking his line. He's not riding over the top. And getting back to Marvin, one of his benefits is Dungey comes off the track, and these guys are friends. He goes to Marvin, hey, this line's working. Right. That line that was good at practice is beat up, you know. So you get that, you know, really, really critical information. So that's where these teammates do and often can help each other out. Look who Lucas coming to lap.
For Chad Reed. That is a rare sight. Reed, I didn't see him up front off the start. I don't know if he went down or not, but he's going to go a lap down here as Dungey continues to roll. We go on board with Phil Nicoletti, who is 4th. He was running 4th late at Glen Helen, and then bike problems for Dungey down the stretch allowed Nicoletti to pick up a spot and get it on the podium. So that could happen right now if there's a disaster for the 3 riders, one of the 3 riders in front of him. It's happened before.
Yeah, it has. It's not going to happen all 3.
No.
When
he
you're
can
in
pick
fourth,
up one.
when you're in 4th, you hate saying it, but you always just hope someone has a bit of an issue because 3rd feels so much better than a 4th.
Yeah, big difference. You just go right back to the truck and celebrate basically nothing. If you finish 4th, you get to go on stage, thank everybody, and get the cheers if you finish in the top 3. But still, for Nicoletti, his 4ths are solid. Again, this was a guy that did not have a full-time ride last year. Was the fill-in Phil. Now he's the fill-time Phil, racing all 12 rounds.
Factory Phil.
Factory Phil, yeah. This is the Yamaha factory bike with the help of the Gibbs folks. Down to the inside, just trying to find an area that's a little less rutted, a little less roofed out.
And and just trying to stay out of the roof from the lappers in front because, like I said, these 450 machines, they will pelt you with pebbles and rocks. Bikes have a lot of horsepower, so they shoot those things off the rear tire. A lot of times you see the guys even ducking their head down, trying to not get a face full of rocks.
Oh, yeah, like coming out of that corner you just saw. Here's the bomber, the uphill triple. Now, we'll see if we can stay with it all the way through that big jump where he did not make it over in practice. Had a big crash. And what I noticed at the end of that jump, Grant, you can't celebrate clearing it because you're about 10 feet away from some serious ruts for the next jump. Here we go.
Yeah, just on top
right into
again.
it. Yep.
So, kind of surprised he hasn't picked up on that. That's hurting him.
And we can show you the crash he had. Same jump earlier today. He's behind his teammate Barsha. He does not make it.
Barsha gets the whole way, but he lands right on that pocket. I think what happened was the foot pegs dug in the ground and the bike rebounded it and basically just shot him off the bike. There you see him chatting over with the team in the medical rig. But you could tell not in a great deal of pain. I'm sure just hurt the joints and that. But all of a sudden they line up for the race and adrenaline takes over. And all of a sudden that pain's not as bad as you thought it would be.
No pain for this guy. Ryan Dungey does have more lap riders to clear. This is a little bit shorter track, shorter lap time than the previous 3. So you hit a little more traffic that way when you have less track to spread them out on. But that hasn't slowed Dungey much. The lead now 22 seconds. This is becoming a, dare I say it, Tomakian style lead for Dungey as he's just rolling away. And like you said, probably not even showing us everything he has. If Anderson or Roxon or anyone else were closer, he'd probably turn it up a little bit. So Dungey riding very well.
Well, that's going to be a positive sign for Dungey because if you look at it, yes, Tomac's not here, so of course it makes Dungey look better. But when you look at the lap times, he's just ridden away from everyone else, which he wasn't that much quicker than everyone else, you know, whether it was a Ken Roxon or even a Blake Baggett or some of those guys that have been knocking on the podium doors. You know, he was, you know, less than a second quicker. Now we're talking, I mean, he's stretching it out on average over a second, but close to 2 seconds a lap, every lap, and he looks very comfortable doing it.
And Roxon, man, a 154 was Roxon's best lap of the Moto. He just turned a 158. And Anderson, his best a 155. He just turned a 2-minute lap. So these guys have really backed it down the stretch, or maybe it's the traffic. Maybe they just are settled in the positions they're in. It's a big drop-off, 5 seconds a lap.
Yeah. Well, the time has run out of the 30 minutes, so when Dungey comes across the finish line here in a few moments, he'll get that 2-lap hard, but very uneventful race for Dungey, but he likes this kind of racing. Get a decent start, get out front, don't eat roost and rocks all day.
I think any rider likes it if he's the guy doing it. Are you okay with this if you're out front? That's it. Checker flag is out. Ryan Dungey has won the Moto. He's headed to the podium. And Phil Nicoletti going to race it on in. He's about a quarter of the track away from a solid 4th as we break in our Fram Cam Live. Wait a minute. Blake Baggett, El Chupacabra going to try to strike down the stretch. Nicoletti just got a big handful of throttle out of that corner. He's got to know Baggett's there. 1 turn left. This is the corner where Baggett made a pass for a Moto win last year. This time he's on the inside. This time, not going to work. Nicoletti is fourth. Baggett, a hard-earned fifth from the back. Anderson second. Roczen third. Ryan Dungey made that one look surprisingly easy for what's, of course, a rough track, beating the best in the world. Just completed our first 450 moto here at the Red Bull Tennessee National, and we'll show it to you with our Lucas Oil race recap. Great start by the Yamahas. Justin Barsha on the 51 out front. Throws it away on the first lap.
Yeah, just landed in a slick spot there. Landed over a little too much, goes down. But man, he had a phenomenal comeback through the pack. Ryan Dungey gets all the way over that jump, the biggest jump of the track, gets around Nicoletti. And once Dungey got up front, he was gone.
That's what it looks like. Dungey on the inside of this left-hand corner after making it over that big obstacle, and he would not be headed from there. Takes the win on the number 5 Red Bull KTM. Jason Anderson, solid run to finish second. Ken Roczen third. Nicoletti would hold on for fourth. So good ride for Dunge. 27-second lead. Sounds familiar with the way things have gone this year, just with a different rider. Here are the results from that moto. We mentioned Nicoletti, a solid fourth, Baggett fifth. Pike, Tickle, Seeley, Barsha, Noren round out the top 10. Good rides for those guys, especially Barsha, 40th to 9th. But my hero, 12th place, Ryan Sipes, first race of the year for him in motocross. He now races the Grand National Cross Country Series, and he's going to go to one of those races tomorrow after exhausting himself today. Let's send it to Georgia with our race winner.
Yes, of course, race winner, the number 5, Ryan Dungey. Now, Ryan, congratulations on that race win. Obviously, a significant lead. The track conditions last week, not many people like too much. However, this track, did you enjoy it out there?
Yeah, I did. You know, last weekend was definitely one of the roughest tracks I've ridden in a long time, and today the track's good. It looks like we got good weather coming into this weekend, just the right amount of moisture in the ruts. There's good lines and fun. So yeah, I'm having a good time for sure. But you know, it was good to get a win today.
Well, congratulations, Ryan Dungey. First moto win. Good luck in the second.
And we'll show you what's coming up here in the world of Lucas Oil Pro Motocross. Second moto of the 450 class will be live on NBC. First time we've been on there this season, and we'll be at High Point, Pennsylvania next weekend. Let's send it back to Georgia.
Yes, Jason Anderson, congratulations. Second in that moto. What an awesome finish for you. You had a lot of pressure. You had a lot of riding within Ryan Dungey and then Ken Roczen, obviously, but you held it together. You held it together, stayed focused. Was it pretty tough with the pressure of Ken Roczen behind you?
Yeah, you know, he was pushing me the whole moto. I kind of tried not to look back the whole time, but you know, the track's a little tame out there today, so just looking forward to that second moto. I'm going to try and put in a solid one, and couldn't do it without my whole Rockstar Energy Racing, Husqvarna, Thor, Hilton, and Dragon, Arrow. They're just a whole crew behind me, and just pumped to put that Husqvarna up out here.
Well, congratulations, well done, Jason. The other side of me, we have Ken Roczen. Ken Roczen, third place overall. I can tell by your facial expressions you're not completely happy. Towards the second part of the moto, how were you feeling? Was your back injury starting to affect you or anything like that?
No, well, I had a good jump out of the gate and just got swallowed up in the middle of the straight. So I had to find my way up there, but didn't really feel that good out there. You know, I made a lot of mistakes. I lost traction many times and over jumped stuff, and definitely not how I should be riding, but I'll try to fix that for second moto.
Well, good luck second moto. Well done, Ken.
No excuses, Ken just didn't ride the way he needed to. Dungey takes a big victory. We'll start transitioning into the 250 class as we keep rolling here on MAV TV. One of the cool parts of Lucas Oil Pro Motocross, free autograph sessions every afternoon between the practice sessions. You can come meet your favorite rider. Maybe it's Cole Seeley, maybe it's Marvin Musquin. It's been Marvin versus Martin, by the way, in our 250 class. Musquin here, and Jeremy Martin has split the 6 motos so far this year in the 250 class. We'll see what happens today, and then we'll roll on High Point next weekend, June 13th. And we'll have a weekend off for the first time this year. We'll keep on rolling through Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, Washington, upstate New York, and then Utah and Indiana will end it. And that's when we'll crown our champions at the Indiana National just outside of Indianapolis. 250 class up next. Stay tuned to MAV TV.